Hello, YouTube people out there and YouTube subscribers. How are you today? Awesome. And maybe not so awesome, but hopefully you'll get through the day or through the night or through the early morning hours fine and without any further problems or tribulations or emotional pain. Hopefully you're listening to this in good spirits and are having a better day than the one before, and take every second and minute out of the day and try to see the positive in your moment in the present. So this video is going to be about what it's like to have PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder. So this is going to be a video about how I experience it. So the way that you experience PTSD is going to differ from mine, and mine is going to most likely differ from yours. And that happens because we all have different experiences that ultimately result in multifaceted, complicated, and very emotional, distressing results. So depending on the nature of what you have gone through and what you've been exposed to internally, emotionally, and or environmentally, it's going to definitely impact the way that we experience our thoughts, feelings, and emotion overall. So let's take it easy, and if you want to reflect upon your own self right now, then take a little moment to kind of open your mind and free yourself of that terrible feeling that you might be having right now, and make room to absorb a different perspective. Okay, so taking a deep breath is kind of difficult for people who have anxiety disorders, and I have a problem with that. But you can do something that's called box breathing. So if you're having a problem right now listening to this that's triggering you, you can breathe in for 4 seconds and breathe out after 4 seconds, and then wait 4 seconds, and then inhale again for 4 seconds, and then stop for 4 seconds, and then breathe all your negativity out for 4 seconds. Okay, I might have needed that as well. So PTSD for me is something that doesn't go away. It affects my everyday life, and the occurrences that I've had happen throughout my life, and especially with trauma, and most especially with childhood trauma, has affected the way that I can enjoy life in my adult years. So I am currently having a very low quality of life. But it's true that I see positive through my tribulations that I've gone through, and that I basically ignored the fact that I was mentally, physically, and emotionally tortured and really essentially robbed of my childhood, my teenage years, and my young adulthood by people who just had me convinced that, you know, the way that I was living and the way that I was treated was normal. So I didn't know better. So I lived all of my life except for my, I would say, 30s, and now that I'm into my 40s, I'm 42, and I'm happy to say that I'm 42. I'm not one of those people that are like, oh, I'm not going to say my age, I'm going to lie about it. I'm 42. So I've had decades of feeling a certain way and not knowing that it was abnormal because of these events and these people. I really don't want to go into detail about the trauma that I've experienced because I don't think it's appropriate right now to talk about things like that because they're very detailed and gruesome and very heinous, and the things that I've seen are might really trigger somebody off, and that's not the point of this video. So PTSD is something that you're post-traumatic about. So post meaning after, and trauma is something that results from a bad episode, to put it lightly. So you're experiencing trauma after an event. So an example would be you were sexually assaulted, and then after that you are experiencing sexual trauma from that particular event or events. So there's different kinds of trauma because there's different kinds of ways that you can develop trauma. And trauma can present itself in different ways as well. So for me, I talk about alexithymia in one of my videos, which means essentially emotional blindness, to where you've experienced so much trauma that you don't even know how to describe your emotions to someone, and then you lose the ability to even feel the emotions that others can feel because you're spent. Really, you are emotionally spent. It doesn't mean that you don't feel things like excitement or anger or frustration. It's just that loving other people, feeling empathy, and just overall, like, I would say, like, if you were watching a sad movie, it would be like just watching the news. Like, you just don't have any kind of feeling towards what's going on in the movie. Why? I think it's because when you're that traumatized and you have PTSD, you've already seen it, you've already done it, you've been there, and therefore your brain is pre-empathized to the situation because you've already been there. So why should you feel bad about somebody else when you've already been there, or worse? So that's my reasoning behind why it's difficult to feel bad for others, because how can you feel that bad for others if you've been in a worse place or similar place? So you get more of a feeling of a relationship with this terrible experience. Like, if you've ever seen the movie Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, you would be watching that saying, oh, no way, that can't happen. Like, that's like a little extreme, or, you know, that man would have never done that to her, like her social worker. But I'll tell you what, that stuff happens all the time. And I identify with her in the movie, so I didn't feel anything at all in the movie. when I was watching the graphic scenes of her being horrifically assaulted by her social worker, etc. So nothing fazed me in the movie because, you know, I've been that close to that type of abuse and that extreme of abuse. And I've also been in situations where people of authority that you think that you can trust have taken advantage of me in that kind of way. And also I've seen some pretty bad things in my life as far as people getting hurt. And I've been assaulted, attacked, I've been jumped, I've been beat up, I've had my face smashed in, I've had my head smashed in. I've been very close to death a lot of times by the hands of others. So PTSD, what I'm going to say about that is that what it does is that you have, or I have, visions of the most extreme parts of my life that were terrible, that happen to appear in my memory and in my thoughts all day long. So no matter what I'm doing, those thoughts are forever present in my mind. So I could be outside on a beach somewhere, but inside my head I can still replay the moments that were worse than anything that I could ever explain to a person who's never experienced what I've experienced. The pictures come up in your head like it's just like watching a movie again, like it's on replay. So it's like leaving your DVR on and having it on repeat, watching the same movie every day, all day, for the whole year, and then the year after that. So you are reliving these nightmares all the time, and then the feelings that come with it can be different. Sometimes it's depression, sometimes it's anxiety, sometimes it's a panic attack, sometimes it's insomnia, sometimes it's just being withdrawn from people, sometimes it's just the excitement of being alone and safe in your own home. Sometimes it's being agoraphobic and not being able to leave the house because nothing is safe out in the world. And that's kind of where I'm at right now, which is very difficult to live with, especially if you're a successful kind of intellectual driven person who is educated and can use, you know, education to make money, but you're not able to go out and utilize your gifts and talents intellectually and apply them into real world situations because of this PTSD that is in the way. So focusing is something that's taken away, and it's just replaced by these subsequent reruns of the trauma incidents. Some people have one traumatic incident that replays in their head. For example, I'd hate to use this, but this did happen to someone I know. They were outside and their son was on a bicycle, and he was 15, and he crossed the road in the front yard and he got struck and killed right in front of the mom and the dad. So they had great lives, they had good parents, they didn't have anything really bad happen to them, except, you know, he was in Vietnam, so I would not discount that as something bad happening. But anyway, you get the point, is that what he and she relives in their heads is that moment over and over and over again, forever. And no matter how much therapy they get from their psychiatrist, their psychologist, or group therapy, you can't erase trauma, and you can't erase the event that caused trauma. Some people say, well, with the power of God, and you know, they use that as empowerment to erase the negativity of it, and then they say, well, everything happened for a reason, or maybe if he didn't get hit by that, he would have had cancer and we would have struggled more. It's like, you always try to bargain, and that's part of the stages of grief, actually, is bargaining. But anyways, my PTSD it stems from a very young age, and it never stopped. And like verbal abuse can do it. It's not just watching somebody die or someone being killed or having yourself almost be killed or murdered. It could be being traumatized by words, which I have that too. I'll never forget poisonous words that were told to me by very close people in my life that were supposed to be there for me, to encourage me throughout my life, not mentioning who they are. You just have to look at those people as sick people, sick individuals. This is the way I handle it, is that, you don't have to forgive anyone unless you're a Christian and you're like, oh, well, in order for me to be forgiven, I have to forgive all these people. I don't forgive people. I just kind of like forget about it. But then if you don't address it, it'll come out eventually, unless it's subconscious and it happened before your memory started in your brain. Like when you're 2 years old, things aren't developed in your brain yet to the point where you can hold a definite memory. But that's irrelevant to what I'm saying right now. So having PTSD is all the time. It's a full-time mental job that your brain is employed at. So you can call it PTSD Incorporated. My brain is employed there. My body's not there, but my brain is. So when I want to take my body somewhere and go to work or work on a project or go to a meeting, my mind isn't there because it's occupied at its own job of reliving traumatic events and things that people have done to me and things that people have said to me. And what that does is it creates a cycle of different feelings on top of that, which are anxiety, depression, like I said, and overall regret, like what could have I done to not have been in that situation? If only I waited 3 seconds, or if only I knew about that, or if only that person called me, or if only that person was there to help me, or if only I never met them. You go through these what ifs, or, why, or why me, or whatever. But I'm not a very emotional person. So I don't pity myself. I don't blame myself. But then again, I'm not going to intentionally dwell on it and cry about it. I'm just not going to. To me, everything that happened in my life happened because it did. That was just the way it was. Did I deserve it? No. Am I angry about it? There's certain things that I'm angry about, but most of the trauma I've been through, I actually am glad that I went through it so that I can help other people deal with their trauma. And yes, I did go to college for psychology, and I'm also in the medical arena, and I enjoy both the clinical, physiological side of medicine I like to be both-sided so you get a good understanding, you know, of the diabolical self. I believe in knowing clinical medicine and the medicine of being, you know, in philosophy and understanding the human mind. So without knowing both, I think it's pretty much not very productive. If you can help people both ways, then I think that people should apply themselves in both ways. But back to PTSD, every time I talk about it, I probably look down because it's not looking up in hopes, high hopes. It's looking down because it's not easy to talk about. But if you have PTSD and you're struggling, I hope that you can find a group. Right now I'm in a group practice that has, it's like a 4 to 5 day a week group sessions, and I do it online through telehealth. And you can listen to other people's stories and just kind of feel like less alone. Because if you're agoraphobic like me, you're in the house all day long, kind of like, you know, thinking of all these things, you know, what am I gonna do? You know, like, you know, I'm all by myself, you know, I feel alone, you know, there's no one to help me. You know, you gotta help yourself, and you gotta reach out to the resources that you have around you. Because they're there, they're just sometimes difficult to find, especially if you're in the middle tax bracket where, you know, mental health is not affordable or accessible. And in rural areas especially, I'm hoping that if you need help, that you can kind of navigate through that and find a online group to belong to that your insurance can pay for. Because I know what it's like to pay out of pocket for my psychiatrist, and it was like $250 a session, and it's just not fair. But anyways, I'm not saying that if you have PTSD that it's just gonna go away. What I'm saying to you is that it really never does go away. I'm sure that there's people out there that are listening that have had events happen where you can say, yeah, you know, I've overcome that, and that's wonderful. That's atypical though. And I'm glad that that happened to you, where you can just live your life and forget about the past and enjoy the future and enjoy the present. But the things that I have to deal with are very, very provoking of the emotion of regret. And I think that's why I try so hard academically, because I'm in control of that. So what you try to do with PTSD is control something, whether you know it or not. So think about all the things that you're doing if you have PTSD. Are they control driven, or do you actually want to do them? It can be a combination of both as well. So like me, you know, I've been going to college for 12 years now, and I love it, and I love to learn. But is it a coping mechanism? Is it subconsciously a coping mechanism? Do I have something to prove? Do I do it for monetary reasons so I can get a big salary one day? I can't deny those are yeses, you know. I want to, in a sense, make up for my past life, and I don't want anyone to know who I am, and I want to be a new person. I struggle with staying in the same place for too long. This is the longest time I've been in a state, and this is the longest time I've lived in a house. Never lived in a house longer than 3 years. So that's anxiety provoking for me too, because people are starting to understand who I am. In the neighborhoods, everyone recognizes you. I like to stay anonymous and move. That way nobody can catch on to who I really am inside, because I don't want anyone to know. But I go on YouTube and make videos because I know what it's like to feel a certain way, and go on YouTube and then you see this person standing on a podium with like 1 million people in the audience, and they're trying to, convey this message onto the public about PTSD, when actually they are just trying to sell a novel or something. I have no alternate motives other than to help you as a person, or someone that is in your life that you're having trouble understanding, from my perspective. That's all I can give you. I'm not selling a book. I'm not having fancy pop-ups come up with like little bubbles, and I don't use filters. I don't look like a bear or a cat. I don't know. It's just important for me to express a little bit about myself and this PTSD subject, so that this can help someone in some way, even if it's just one person. If you think my video was not helpful and you think it was ridiculous, or you think I'm just this pathetic person, then okay. But there could be 1 or 2 people out there that listen to this that are like, you know what, I'm not alone, and I know I can go to her channel and she would understand what I'm talking about. And you're damn right I do. I've never been to ground combat in the military. I've never seen my friends get blown up right in front of me. I don't know what that's like, but I'm pretty sure it's the same process of grief, shock, despair, regret, and all the things that go with the whole package of PTSD, that you can rely on me to understand some of what you're feeling. So let's just end there, and I hope that my insight has opened some doors in your head, and that you don't feel alone anymore, and that there's other people out there that just don't sleep, and that have these terrible reoccurrences of imagery and reliving the situation right along with you. So have a great night or day or early morning, whatever you want to call it, wherever you are in the world, and just keep on going. Winston Churchill has my favorite quote, is, if you're going through hell, keep on going. Keep on going. And I think that it can apply to everyone who is watching this channel in some way or another. So keep your head up and have a great day. This is your day, nobody else's. This is your life. You're in charge of your life. And I hope nobody messes this day up for you or this night, because you deserve the best possible quality of life. Okay, another breath. So I will talk to you again in another video, and I'll talk about something else. Until then, have a great time reflecting and living in the present. Talk to you soon.